Hey everybody, Shane here again in the Blanket Fort recording booth. Today we're going to talk about Audacity 101, what it means to get started. Very plain and simple how to get Audacity up and running on your Windows PC, and how to dial in your DAW, how to record and export audio. We're going to be about 15 minutes into this, so you might want to grab some popcorn before we get started. Hit pause, I'll wait. Okay, welcome back. You got your popcorn and your pop, we're ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Audacity's website. It'll be linked in the description below to save you a little Google foo. And you're going to notice that Audacity is a wonderful website, and it tells us very clearly where to get the application. So if you're not seeing something similar to this, you're probably in the wrong spot. But if you use the link that was in the description, you should be fine. So the first thing we're going to do is go and get ourselves Audacity. So the first thing we do with getting Audacity is we're going to notice that it tells us what the current version is. This is important if you already have Audacity installed in something. We are only going to cover Audacity on the Windows platform today. I'm not going to talk about Linux or Mac. If you have either one of those, there's lots of other great videos out there. I don't have a running Linux box with Streamlabs on it so that I can show you what I'm doing, and I don't own a Mac, so I can't show you on that either. So you'll notice here it's very, clearly tells us how to download the file. So really all you need to do is find the highlight, and in this case it's going to be either the 32-bit or the 32-bit or the 64-bit installer. Most current machines will be running 64-bit Windows. If you're not sure which one you're running, by going into your app machine, you can find out fairly quickly. I'm not covering that today. I'm going to assume everybody is on something that's been made in the last 7 or 8 years, and it's 99% likely you are on a 64-bit machine. So we're going to go ahead and download the 64-bit installer. And if you could see under my smiling face right here, you would see where it's downloaded the application. But we can cheat and say show all over here. And we can see where I've downloaded Audacity a few times in the last little bit, because I may have flubbed a video or two before we got here. So all we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on this to choose to run it. Now what you're going to notice is a great big black screen, and that's because on my screen there's a pop-up saying, are you sure you want to run this application? Which, yes, we do. This is just Windows trying to protect you from yourself, which is a very good thing. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to get this. And really, you are going to do this whole section along just on defaults. There is, in my case, because I already have Audacity installed, it's saying, this folder already exists. Are you sure you want to do this? And yes, we do. If you don't think you have Audacity installed, you may want to change this, but realistically, you can just kind of yes your way through this entire thing and not worry about a thing. If you, for some reason, do need to change those, you probably didn't need this video in the first place. So now we've got Audacity open, and the very first thing we need to do is get our audio interface set up and configured. So there's a couple things you need to know about your audio interface before you go through this. So one of the very first things that we're going to do is select our audio device. So you'll notice here we have a wonderful button that says Audio Setup. So by clicking on Audio Setup, and the very first thing that it asks us is Playback Device. This is Audacity saying, where do you want to hear what you recorded? Now by default, it'll be set to your Microsoft Sound Mapper, which means it will use whatever your default audio device is. If you're like me, my default audio device and my recording equipment are two separate things. I also do a lot of other stuff from this PC other than just audio work, so my day-to-day work I tend to do with a headset. I don't really have room to do my job and have this great big bulky mic on my desk. So with that, I use very different recording equipment, and so I will notice here my audio interface has a very cryptic name, and that's because I really use a really old audio device and had to find a very different driver to make it work. Not your typical setup. You'll typically see your Scarlett, your ProSonos, whatever it is, clearly identified here, and you're going to pick it out of this list. So in my case, it's this USB audio codec. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then I'm going to go ahead and get my recording device. And the same thing, you'll see every recording capable device on or microphone that your computer thinks you have. So in my case here, again, it's this, USB audio codec. All right, so I'm good to go. Audacity is now listening to my microphone. It is playing back on my studio headphones. I'm all set to go. Now, the first thing you may notice is if you haven't played with any of the buttons yet on your interface, This could be really quiet, really loud. So we're going to do a test recording, and my audio is already dialed in, so my interface is already exactly where I need it. So when I hit record here, you'll notice the waveform really just kind of stays beautifully within the, oh my goodness, apparently I'm not dialed in, this is a great example of why you want it dialed in. So I'm going to stop here, and you're going to see, I'm going to stop here. All right. And you'll see where I've clipped out where I lose waveform. This is a terrible thing. And the reason for this is my gain is set too high. So apparently after one of my previous attempts at recording this, I forgot to turn the gain back down. So now I'm going to turn the gain down, and this time I'm going to turn it down too far. And the first thing you're going to notice is that the video gets a lot quieter because I'm using this microphone as my input for the video as well. And that's okay. It really helps emphasize the point that things get quieter. So we're going to go ahead and create a new track here. So we're going to right click and say add mono track. And now I'm going to mute our first audio. And this is just for a great visual. Now, if you give me just a second, I'm going to go turn down my gain. And all right. So now you'll notice I'm a lot quieter, and I'm quite honestly speaking at a significantly higher volume to make sure that this is recorded. So this is a lot harder in my voice. This gives you a much more unnatural sound. So now I'm going to go ahead and record. And I'm going to say, hey, this is a nice sample recording. And if you want to take a look at that waveform that's going, it's very teeny tiny. So to make that viable to send out to a client, we're going to have to do a lot of work on that. We're not covering that work on this video. That's for a later video. But you'll notice there's a big difference between these two. So now we've got to go find the Goldilocks point. So we've had it too high, we've had it too low. What you want to do here is you want to make a small adjustment and try again. You don't want to make very large adjustments. So let me go adjust my gain a bit. All right, so we've turned up the gain a little bit. And if we go and add another track now, and we record again, well, hello everybody, how does my gain sound now? Well, looking at it, our waveform's a little bit more solid, but we still have a ways to go. So I'm just going to keep going in the same audio loop this time. Let's turn it up a little more. So what I'm doing is I'm turning this up by roughly 2 notches on the dial every time I move it. So let's record again. And another test audio. How do we look? We're still looking pretty scaled back. So let's give it another couple notches. So we're just adding another track now. I think I just Goldilocks this one. I think I got it right where we need it. So let's give it another try here. Thank you for coming to the Blanket Fort sound booth. And we're very, very close. I just need a tad more gain on this. So 1 second. All right, now how do we look? I am filling the audio in nicely. I'm at a comfortable volume. I could maybe I'm going to have to take the gain back just a touch, but we're looking good. So this is the game you want to play with your interface. Now we're looking really good. So now if you take a look at this waveform, you're going to notice that I'm kind of up with the 3/4 to 2/3. I'm spending a lot of time 1/2 to 3/4 of the available space, and this is exactly where you want to be. This gives you room to bring it up a bit when you want to hit, so the back of the room, but it lets you quiet it down and still reach your audience without having to go fiddle with your gain. Because ideally, this is kind of a set it and forget it. You really want to find your ideal setting and not mess with it unless you are doing something different with your voice. So if you're doing a high-powered voice where you've got a scream or a battle cry or a really soft spot where you really want to get all that emotion and everything through in the piece you're doing, well, then you might want to turn up your gain. In my case, my gain knob is incredibly sensitive because I'm working with some equipment that's been around the block. it doesn't work for me, but that's something that you'll definitely want to keep in mind. So this is something that you're going to have to take some time on and find what works for you. You'll also notice as I talk, I've got this wonderful gain meter up here. And I'm actually still recording on purpose. So I'm creating this super long audio train, recording everything we're doing, and I don't really need it. But you'll notice here we've got a level marker. So if I bring it up a bit, wow, you see me hitting in the red, you know for sure that if we go catch up with this on the audio, well, I'm clipping out. So here's my, well, that's good. Now, if I really lean into it, well, I'm starting to clip, which means I'm losing audio, and that's a terrible thing. So that's where you would reach over and grab that gain knob and bring it down a bit. All right, so let's stop this recording. Sorry, my house is really dry today, so it's my nose is bugging me. So we've done this, so we've taken the time to dial in our interface. So now guess what? We're ready to record something we can use. So we're going to do a nice sample recording. So we're going to just get rid of everything on here. So just like any other application in Windows, Control-A is highlight everything. Now this is something you want to do with great care if you're going near the delete button. And I don't need all these extra tracks anymore. So let's do a quick intro for this video. Hey everybody, Shane here. Welcome to the Blanket Fort recording booth, and today we're going to talk about using Audacity. And let's take that back off mute. And we've got a pretty good waveform. Again, I could probably turn my gain up a little bit, but we're getting decent quality audio. It's working fairly well. I'm getting close to the edges here, so I don't want to push that out too far. So now I've created this. So the very first thing I want to do now is I want to save my work, or specifically, as Audacity puts it, we want to save the project. So we're going to go ahead and save the project. And how to use Audacity. So I've saved this, as I said, I took a couple hits at this because between noise in my house and my tongue forgetting to work, we had to do a take or two at this. But now we have this nice audio and we exported the project. Well, that project doesn't do our clients any good. When we want to get audio out to the client, we actually need to export our work now. So if you take a look over under File, and you're going to see an option that says Export, and a bunch of other options. And all you really need to know about are WAV and MP3. WAV is a very large, very complex file. It's very close to true analog, and is not something you'll typically need. Some very specific work, sound engineers will want WAV. You just provide the customer with what they're looking for. But in this case, we're looking for export as MP3. And it's going to give us a couple things that we need to keep track of. So one of the first things is bit rate. And most people want constant bit rate. What that means is no matter what's going on, it's recording the same amount of information, whether it's silence or absolute cacophony, it's recording the same amount of data. When you move to variable or average, what it does is it makes the file smaller, but it makes it smaller by saying, hey, there's nothing here. I don't need to record anything. In this case, you have the total audio content for every moment of the recording by saying a constant bit rate. And most places are looking for 192 kilohertz. So our kilobits per second. So that's what we're going to stay with here. Now here I've got forced mono because most of the audio we hand over, we want to be mono. We leave the stereo mixing to the engineers on the other side. And you'll notice that it picked up my project name, so I don't even have to remember to resave this. It's already named. I'm good to go. We're going to go ahead and save that. So now you get this pop-up, and this metadata tag is worth filling in, and I'll tell you why. You never know how long your Audition file could sit on a client's computer. They might be digging through 2-3 years down the road and go, there was some other good voices on that project. These were in my maybe pile. Let's listen to these again. That's the voice I need. And now they can find you because your name's on here. In the comments, you might put your website, you might put your Twitter handle, you might put an email address. I don't recommend a phone number, but this makes you findable to somebody who finds your audio file down the road. It's very worthwhile filling this in. My 2 cents on it, you don't have to, but I highly recommend you do. So there it is. You've installed Audacity, you've dialed in your audio interface, you've created a new file, you've saved your project, and you've exported audio. you're well on your way to getting started with Audacity as your professional DAW of choice. Congratulations. We'll see you on the next video.